Let's go ahead and get started. I will call to order this quarterly department head meeting for Tuesday, April 22nd, 2025. Thanks everyone for coming. As we've done over the past year, we're having half the group present every quarter to kind of keep the timing under control, so appreciate all the reports that we've gotten from everybody. But first up on our list today is Mr. Homicki, Tax Assessor.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Before you is my 8-page report. It's generally a 1-page, but this time of year we finish up the grand list during the month of January and February, so I'm giving you the last quarter. The highlights of the bullets on the first page is that we are meeting with the Board of Realtors. We have about 70 people coming over the next couple of days to give a presentation. You'll see a little bit more of that for future reference. The MLS is working closely with us on making sure we have accuracy and integrity to the details of each property we have in town. Between now and May 15th, we take applications for the Elderly Tax Relief Homeowners Program. The highlight there is that if your income is under 84.1 for a married couple, you have an option to defer your property taxes. So we want the public to be aware of that. We have about 85 properties, households on the tax relief program now. And there's 2 new statutes that came into play. One is on the taxation of motor vehicles. We are required now to use the MSRP instead of the NADA average retail value. It's a methodology change. It was discussed and mandated by the legislature, worked on with the Office of Fiscal Analysis, CCM, Governor's Office, a variety of personalities, and it's supposed to eliminate the appeal process. It's a rigid process on the MSRP with a depreciation schedule going back on all 17,000 motor vehicles that we have. So I think I'll give you an overview of the rest of the pages. The second page is a memo from myself to Jen about the grand list. We have about the $11 billion in value relates to, if you divide that by 70%, it comes out to a $16 billion value for the town. I think it's a little more expensive than Greenland maybe, but that's what we are basing the values on. You'll see the reconciliation of motor vehicles, business, personal property, and then the top 50 highest taxpayers on this report. So try to be brief and to the point and welcome questions.
A couple of questions from me. So I noticed here that you said in the opening paragraph that there were only 20 appeals filed for this year's assessment appeals for the new grand list. How does that compare with prior years? Is it
generally the year after revaluation, with the 5-year update cycle, we generally have a couple hundred people more inquiries than challenging values. But to only have 20, it tells me that my support staff has filtered out all those questions on inquiries, neighborhood adjustments, changes in values, and that we can better define the value and better appraise and assess these assessments. We had a lot of sales for the last reval, over 700, that we looked at on 7,000 parcels. So the integrity of the data is clean, it's very transparent, it's open to the public on our assessor's website.
I have to say, just that one property I got involved in, and I had a chance to actually see the records, not just for that property, but all the comparable sales and how it was put together for that. It's extremely thorough. And so anybody who's wondering about their appraisal, you should always ask and make sure, as I tell people, never leave money on the table. But one of the things you'll find is if you do make that inquiry, you're going to find, copious record keeping and analysis for this. It's pretty impressive.
We try to be as transparent as possible.
Well, you need to be. So for the tax relief program for seniors processing from February to May 15th, that's a deadline for applying for that? Or
May 15th is the deadline. We need a copy of their adjusted gross income tax returns and their 1099 Social Security form.
Okay, and how many have applied for that, or how many do we have right now receiving?
The renewal's about 80, 85. We usually bring maybe another 10 in.
Okay, and they should just apply through your office?
Yes.
Or? Okay, give you a call. And then for exempting the houses for veterans who are identified by the VA as 100% permanently and totally disabled. So to be clear, that the exemption is just for the house. It's not for the land value that it sits on, correct?
That's correct. And I think we have 4 applications there. Those are homes. The homes are exempt. The land still gets taxed.
Got it. Okay. One just interesting exchange we've had this morning, just for people's edification, and was about the privacy of home records in general. So the question was posed to me, well, how come by a resident who came in from out of the country and who now lives here? He said, I'm very used to European privacy laws, and this type of information is just not available over there, and he sees all this available here. And it's interesting that these records from kind of how your house is valued and all of the information that's associated with that is all publicly available.
Yep, it's all publicly exposed, motor vehicle, personal property, real estate. The irony is that I started with a vocation years ago with a guy by the name of Joe Cullen that was the assessor here in Darien, and he fought it tooth and nail. He, with the Ridgefield assessor and a couple other towns, felt that the public exposure of names and addresses shouldn't be. We can redact certain situations where we have judges, or we have lawyers, or people that are vulnerable within our files, but that's far and few.
No, but the general rule is that type of information is supposed to be kept public.
That's correct.
Unless,
Yeah.
okay, I got it. And then just to be clear, when you talk about personal property taxes, that largely applies to business assets within commercial
That's correct.
facilities.
Furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
All that for businesses,
Yes.
right? Okay. Questions for Tony?
Yeah, Tony, the motor vehicle, the drop, was that due to this new methodology?
It's a modification. It was almost statewide, modified a little bit. We did modify our depreciation schedule to put it more in line with what most towns were doing.
Okay.
It was something that came through in
That was-
January, I think.
Well, that's what, the RTM voted to go to the higher depreciation
That's correct.
schedule last month, and this grand list figure reflects that.
Yes, it does.
The new schedule.
I have a question on that, because
Oh, no, it
you
doesn't.
have, yeah, you have the
You're
January
correct. Yeah, correct.
information.
We did the M13 modification, so
Right.
there is an increase actually in it. So thanks, Jen, for picking up on
I
that.
was looking at the numbers and I was like,
No,
Going the wrong
no,
way.
this
We're going the
is
wrong way.
dated just before the legislative action change.
Okay, so this 316 million, that number's higher.
That's
now
right.
with the- Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then one other question, on the tax abatement, how do you index that to cost of living? You follow Social Security for that income threshold?
It's something that's overseen by the Office of Policy Management, monitored every year, and they just cap it out.
Okay,
So,
so they provide that number, that's
Yes.
not something you generate? Okay.
Yep, that's correct.
Mark, any questions?
no.
Tony, thank you, sir. All right. Next up, so Post 53 is not here today. Joe's actually traveling, so he's not going to be able to make it. Mr. McEwan?
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, sir. How are you?
Good.
Excellent.
Three quick things. May 15th, the state is hosting at our location in the auditorium a Hurricane Means Business workshop. I believe the Army Corps of Engineers is involved in that, so our residents and businesses that are concerned and want to be prepared should attend that meeting. You do have to RSVP that, and there is literature out and about, and I know that we put it out in our weekly newsletter. The other thing I'd like to bring up is we're looking for shelter volunteers, so if anybody wants to assist us in our endeavors in emergency management, if you'd like to be a shelter volunteer, send me your name, either call me or email me, that'd be great. And last but not least, we've made some progress with grants. And the good news is we already had one awarded and we have 3 others that are in the review process. And by the amount of questions back and forth, I'd say they're likely to get grants. So we may see a few more elevations. The biggest problem though is that FEMA and the status in Washington has led a lot of people to be overly concerned, I would say, in whether it's going to happen. And I have no answer for that, nor does the state of Connecticut. So it is a problem that we'll have to, try to get through. But the one award has been awarded, and the gentleman is trying to get through the permit process, et cetera. Any questions? Glad to answer.
What's interesting is that, dealing with that one resident, the problem with those grants, or a problem, I guess, challenge, is that you have to spend the money
Correct.
and then get reimbursed. And so I think one of the things that makes people nervous is that they'll apply for the grant, the government says, yeah, you've got this grant, go for it. And then they need to spend several $100,000 to actually get this work done. And when the work's done, then they need to apply for reimbursement. So I think some of those residents are not unjustifiably nervous
I would.
about whether those grants would come through. There's no guarantee. And unfortunately, you've just got to place that bet. It's probably a good bet, but in the end, it's a bet.
Right. The one program, the money has already been moved from the federal government to the state of Connecticut because that was due in part to the damages that were caused by Ida,
Right.
which is in '21. So the money's been sitting there. So that money is already here. However, the state will say the federal government can take it back if they chose to, and they've done it in the past, and there's no guarantees. But that's the
So in
grant
that
process.
in that one grant case, the money is actually at the state, but it's
Yes.
just a question of whether it would be there when he needs it.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Their motto right now is to get it done as quickly as possible and put in for reimbursement as fast as you can.
Yeah. Okay.
That way the money actually moves.
I think that's great for the Hurricane Means Business program. Highly recommended. I'll be there myself. I think that's a terrific initiative, so I'm really glad they're coming here for that. You stated here that there's some emergency management grants for some additional training. What are some examples of what you've been able to get as a result of that, I guess, second dot or circle point under training and education?
Oh, they've had some, the state has put out a lot of new training. So there's been some software training programs and things like that. They're trying to move away from paper, believe it or not. We're getting there.
Well, let me write that down. On a piece of paper.
On the paper.
So that the Emergency Management Performance Grant, which is an annual grant that pays for part of our salary in emergency management, was moved to that platform this year, and there were some challenges along the way. I think there's still challenges. I know that you had to sign off on it, and it took a little due diligence to get everybody set up right. Darien was one of the first in Region 1 to actually get it accomplished. I'm not tooting my horn, but it was a new program, and honestly, I think the state is struggling more than we were at the local level. It's just a portal and all that. The other thing they had training on was damage assessment software they're utilizing, and unfortunately, they deployed it originally for one of the disasters in the Southbury area, and it worked very well for everyone, and now it's deployed statewide. But there's a lot because it involves the assessor's office and the property values and things like that, so it brings everything together so you can apply quicker when there's a major disaster. But it's a learning curve, and there's not a lot of us involved in the process, so it's been a challenge.
Last question for me, just on shelter volunteers. How many do you need, and what does that entail? So if I'm a volunteer, what are you going to do?
In the past, we had about 12 people volunteer. That helps support the operation of an open shelter, and what it involves is taking some training from the Red Cross. They offer free training to how to operate a shelter, and it really is, and I hate to use this word, it's being observant and paying attention to what's going on around you and things like that, and make sure that people that need things get taken care of. There's a lot they can and can't do legally. Like if you bring your medicine to a shelter, you have to administer your own medicine. You can't help someone take their medicine, things like that. So there's, it's more legality things and staying safe.
So anybody 18 and over?
Yeah.
Terrific.
We've had good success in the past. The last time we had a shelter open was a long time ago, so it's almost 10, 12 years.
Okay. Other questions?
You know who might help with that is if you reach out to Public Health and Safety, the RTM committee, might have some people.
Okay.
Hey, Mark, I only have one question. On the Cherry Street applications, what happens if a house is sold? Does the process?
The application stops.
It does stop?
Yes.
Okay, so it stays with the owner, not with the house?
It's with the owner,
Okay.
correct.
Other questions? Mark, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next up is Finance Department, Josh.
Thanks for having me. So, welcoming me is kind of at the top of at least my priority is getting situated in the finance department and kind of.
We were just going to give you a hard time, so you're saying no. All right, change the schedule here. Scratch those questions. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, kind of getting acclimated to kind of how things are done differently here, and kind of bringing my kind of fresh set of eyes on how I can kind of, I don't know, implement some changes to make the department and finance in general around town hall work a little bit more smoothly and efficiently. So right now we're obviously in the budget process, pushing forward from Board of Finance. Just approved the budget, what feels like a couple weeks ago at this point, and we're pushing on to RTM, which is towards the end of May. Board of Finance approved they approved a 15.50 mill rate. I think that dropped to 15.45.
Right, we got the updated grand list data from Tony after Board of Assessment Appeals, the day after Board of Finance voted. So with those numbers, the RTM will bring the mill rate down to 15.48 if they don't make any other changes.
Oh, terrific, okay, thank you.
As well as total amounts to be raised by taxation. There's a 169 million, or a 6.17 increase over last year. I don't know how detailed you want me to get me, how I should bring you up on the FY25 budget, but yep, so I know yesterday you guys voted on the drawdown on the fund balance for capital projects for next year, as well as the refunding that could take place anytime through FY25 and so on into 26. And we are kind of gearing up as budget rolls off towards the FY25 audit, and kind of trying to tighten up all of the accounts and finances and getting them ready to roll into the audit come July, or June rather. I haven't attached, but I'll send out the previous financials from the Board of Finance. I have listed below some of the highlights in that. I think Jen actually spoke to kind of the projected FY25 end of year general fund performance yesterday at the Board of Selectmen, so I won't really highlight the same details today. Suffice it to say that we're projecting 3.2 million to the good versus what was budgeted for FY25.
Okay. A couple things from me. So there's a spreadsheet that Jen and I fiddled with for years that just pulls everything into one spot for both budgets, Board of Selectmen, Board of Education, down to the bottom line with grand list and all that. If I could get a copy of that, that just shows me what
Sure.
the latest is, so I've got those figures in mind, that'd be great. I'd just be curious about your initial observations. Anything has surprised you or you found interesting since you started here versus where you were? And then second, is there, what's on your 90-day list in terms of how you're spending your time?
So it's definitely a smaller and more like lean group in the finance department. I think 3.5 people or so is definitely, you get a lot of people kind of working hard, chugging along. And in terms of on the 90-day and kind of looking out towards that, I'm really interested in, there's a lot of things I'd like to implement within our accounting software, but kind of step one is really standardizing a lot of the roles and permissions within that accounting software to make it easy to push out and roll out some of those other efficiencies, whether it be just utilizing our software better or giving a little bit more power to departments and a little bit more control over their budgets and so on. Kind of let them work in a more, not constrained, but just kind of giving them the ability to control their budgets and finances a little bit more, and kind of push more of the approval aspects on it. Because I know auditors often look to finance and say basically, we have this software that's very powerful. Munis is like the Cadillac of software in terms of government accounting, and so we should be utilizing it as much as possible to kind of make everyone's jobs a little bit easier and less admin focused, essentially.
Questions for Josh?
Josh, I have one. The higher than anticipated legal costs of $93,000. I know that at last it was $66,000 was attributed to the 2 lawsuits over on 23A. Has that number gone up?
I actually have the most recent legal bill waiting for my signature, so I haven't seen that yet. I'll take a look at it. I'll send you an email and let you know. I will say this month's legal bill, we were running for a few months around 60,000. This month is 35,000. So
Okay.
that's an improvement.
Good. Other questions for Josh? We're glad to have you. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Next up, my temporary arm wrestling champion until he hears up, Mr. Bobby Bush.
Morning, all. Pushing through this 8 weeks post-surgery now for
Okay.
the rotator cuff, so doing good.
Excellent.
A couple of things on the blight end. We have current fines due to the town of $520,700 and current liens of $478,400. We have two properties that fines were paused on because they were working with a property owner on one of them. One of them was being cleaned up. Fines have resumed in February 1 and will resume next month on another. So they continue to work along to try and get them rectified. There's the three that the board has recommended to go to foreclosure, so we'll see where those go. Hopefully they can be rectified. Other than that, construction continues to boom along, as you can all see. Over in the Heights Crossing, they have opened 2 apartments for models by appointment only on weekends. I think it's Friday afternoon, Saturday, Sunday. Goddard School is cranking along. They're ready to open this summer. Retail, we'll see some of the retail spaces open this summer. Over in Darien Commons, still got tenants moving in there. And then downtown Baywater, a lot of steel up, a lot of concrete up. Please remember that the garage, the way it looks, is not the finished product. And it will not be a data center, contrary to the April Fool's joke. Other than that, we had one fire at a residence as a result of ashes from the fireplace being taken out and left on the side porch. Started to burn on the side of the house and a wood pile. Fortunately, it was shortly before the residents retired for the night. Saw the fire, called the fire department, so damage was minimized. Another hour later would have been a whole different story. So just continue to urge people to take those fireplace ashes out, put them into a metal bin, and keep them away from any structures. Otherwise, I'll be happy to answer any questions anybody
A
may
couple
have.
questions from me is, can you explain a little bit more about the First Due software and how that works? And
So that is our incident reporting for fire incident reporting, our inspections. It'll be used for pre-planning for the fire departments, response for the fire departments, and they'll be able to use it as well for training records. So we're working on, we rolled out the incident reporting portion of it. We're able to have the reports input uploaded to FEMA. Still working with, some bugs that got to be worked out with how we want it to work correctly. And then we'll be working on the inspection portion of it. And a lot of it is just the back end work of creating checklists, creating the way we want it to flow for us.
Okay. And then what's the fire marshal's role in the demolition of these office buildings that are coming up to make way for apartments? How do you guys figure into that work?
So we figure to ensure that if there was any tanks on the property, the tanks have been properly removed. Fire protection is properly removed, disconnected, and all of that. And then we just move forward and hopefully obtain it for use for the fire departments for some training. It's been offered, the one in Parklands has been offered for training if the timing will work out. A lot of times it just becomes when the fire departments can get there and when they want to take it down. So timing works, sometimes it doesn't.
One thing I noticed in your report on investigations here, it says that it was discovered that the resident did not have any operable smoke alarms. They had disabled their system. What is your message to residents about smoke alarms?
Yes, please do not disable your fire alarm system. Apparently this resident had several instances of the alarm going off as a result of smoke or steam from the kitchen. The alarm company didn't do to the residents' satisfaction of rectifying the problem. It kept going off, so they just finally took the detectors out and disabled them, leaving their house fully unprotected. And again, small fire on the stove, extended to the kitchen cabinets. It was discovered quickly. Without detection, had it not been discovered quickly, it would have been a whole nother story of a full-blown kitchen fire extending into the first floor and beyond.
Okay. Can you describe a little bit how your inspection load is going to change with all these apartments? Because one of the things that I know is coming up is adding to your ranks in the future so that you've got enough capacity to manage all this. So it's one thing to do the initial inspections, it's quite another, that once all these are built, there's sort of a permanent addition to that load. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So any residential apartment building, multifamily house is required by our office to be inspected annually. If there are retail spaces and business offices that are generally required to be inspected on a 3-year basis, if they share the same building as residential, the whole building falls under annual inspections, which increases our inspection load. So we have to get into the apartments. We want to ensure that the smoke detectors within the apartments are operable. There's no signs of hoarding. The doors to the hallway are closed properly. And just ensure that the residents have access to an escape window within the apartment. And then it's the common area inspections, and then the retail space or restaurant or office space inspections that we do as well. So as our numbers go up in terms of, we essentially, I term it, own the building for the life of the building for inspection purposes. The building department issues a C of O. They are done with the building until somebody else takes out a permit to do a renovation work or an addition.
So it's a lot more.
It's a lot more.
Yeah. My last question is just on blight. So in the graph that you've got on that page, it shows that a drop from, I guess, 9 down to 3 blight cases on your watch list. So are these cases getting cleaned up? Is there progress?
We are getting some stuff cleaned up. There's some stuff that the Blight Review Board over the last year determined that things really didn't need to be listed as on a watch list.
Okay.
If they only had one item, they were like, we're not going to be worried about it until it starts to, becomes another item. Because we get the complaints, most of the complaints now are coming through the C-Click Fix system. So they're logged, and Hank is able to track and go out and check the property and whether it is or isn't a blight issue.
Oh, so if you're a resident and you're concerned about a blighted property, you can actually report that through the C-Click Fix, have someone
yep.
come in and take a look, have Hank come
Absolutely.
take a look. Okay. And then the fines that you mentioned, the $520,000 in current fines, that includes properties that have been foreclosed, is that right? Or a foreclosure process has been initiated?
That's correct.
Okay. Other questions for Bobby?
Hey, Bobby, did the blight officer retire or?
He is not retired. There was an opening. Our part-time fire inspector left back in December. Hank has chose to move on to wants to be just the fire inspector and does not want to continue doing blight as well. So now we're recruiting for a part-time fire inspector / blight prevention officer. So he's still doing blight until we fill the position.
Okay.
Got it, okay. Other questions for Bobby? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Land Use Planning and Zoning, Mr. Ginsberg.
Good morning. You'll see at the top of my quarterly report, highlight 3 points. The most important of them is the Town Plan of Conservation and Development. I'm sure you've all heard various goings-on, town-wide survey, which has just been ended, and we'll be getting the results probably in early May. Did get a very good response. Our consultants meeting with a number of groups, boards, commissions. They meet monthly with the Planning and Zoning Commission. The next meeting will be Tuesday, May 6th, which I think is 2 weeks from today. So the process is moving along with an expected completion date of a final draft sometime in May next year. Have a public hearing in May or June. So that's really the highlight of my report. As Bob noted earlier, the building department is working on inspecting a number of projects. We expect the big push would be Heights Crossing, which wants to start getting, as Bob mentioned, the retail tenants in on the first floor, as well as some of the apartments opening on the second floor, probably May, June timeframe. So a lot of work going on over there every day with a big push to try to get people moved in. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
No, this is great. I appreciate that. And where it talks about the accessory dwelling unit, it says that the commission approved 3 of those. All the applications, has there been a lot of interest in that?
You know, since the commission adopted the new regulation middle of last year, we see about 1 application every month. We do see usually an inquiry every month as well in terms of someone wanting to proceed, knowing the rules. Some people qualify, some people don't. The main reason people don't qualify is either their parcel is usually too small to fit the extra parking on, or they're trying to put it in a structure that doesn't conform with the regulations relative to setbacks. So we expect to continue seeing those. The commission asked us to report back to them later this year with how's it going, what are the results, what are we seeing. What we've seen so far is about 10 or 11 one-bedroom units. Maybe only 1 or 2 of them are complete, but a lot of people are winding their way through the permitting system or constructing. So it's been what we believe is a big success and exactly what we wanted.
Okay. And then I know one of the EPC cases that was that home on Seagate that had the bridge over the driveway. Did that get resolved, or did that?
I think they're going to be talking about it next week.
Next week?
At their meeting the first week in May. I think it's May 7th.
Terrific. And do you have an update on the car wash and the demolition of the Bertucci's as to when that's going to
We did meet with the property owner last week. I think the final thing they had to clean up was there's a drainage easement to the state DOT that goes through their property. They had to coordinate with the state DOT, which you can imagine took longer than expected. But they are anxious to move along.
Okay, terrific. This is great. Questions for Jeremy?
Just on the accessory dwellings, are you finding any applicants coming in that have already had accessory dwellings in their homes and now are trying to get them legally permitted?
I've not seen one
You
yet.
have not seen that? Okay, good.
That's fine.
Jeremy, quick question on the POCD. Are you doing any kind of like town hall kind of, is that the May 6th one?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Monica. We are working on finding I'll call it a larger outreach event, whether that's here in Town Hall or somewhere else. Whether that's going to be May or June, we're still uncertain. It definitely won't be early May, but we're trying to find the right location and gear up for that. My guess would be June, and it seems to be a good building for such an event, but we'll kind of see.
You know, for a fee, the stables, we'll talk.
So we'll see.
You better get started with permitting now, though.
Yeah. So, and the survey, how were your responses? That closed,
Last
right?
the responses are closed. We got over 1,000 responses, and the consultant's in the process of tallying them up. I would expect that at the May 6th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, they'll give some of the feedback that was received.
And you're going to stick with one survey?
Yeah, I think the consultant was happy with what they got, because not only are we doing that, we have these supplemental small group meetings, and then we'll have a big group meeting as well. So I think we're getting feedback in lots of ways, and from many different groups, many different people. So it's working out well.
So the last community engagement for Great Island will be May 17th, and I'm guessing it'll be at the stables, but we don't have a location yet. But we would welcome, if you want to participate in that in some way that you think works best for you, I'm sure we can make that work.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll have a nice group. You know, last time I think we had 300 people, so.
Great, thanks.
Terrific. Other questions?
Thank you all.
Jeremy, thank you. All right, great. Next up, Jen Fava, Parks and Rec.
Good morning. So some of our big projects, we have Weed Beach, which I'm sure everybody's eager for. Those bid documents are out and posted. The opening is May 8th at 3 o'clock. So we're interested to see how those will come back. With the Pear Tree Park improvement projects, those bid documents are being finalized right now. We anticipate those will go out sometime over the summer, probably June-ish. We're still following up with some of our ARPA projects. So Baker Park Playground the playground has been installed, and we've included the accessible matting. Honestly, the kids are out there using it like crazy, which is great.
I drive by it every day, it's awesome. I've not played on it yet personally.
The one piece that we still have left to do, which has been kind of weather dependent, held up, we have the walkway that's going to go in to make it accessible route from the parking lot to the play equipment. So we're looking forward to getting that done. Our Holohan, the backstop here, that installation was complete, and then we are doing repairs to the basketball courts at Cherry Lawn, and again, that's weather dependent. Our temperatures just haven't been warm enough for us to be able to finish that up. Some of the trends that we're seeing is our registration numbers continue to be strong and trending upwards. And actually this past spring, summer, our first day of registration was record-setting for the department. So what we're seeing is that people are understanding that there's clearly a demand, and they're trying to get in there as quickly as possible. You'll see in there, in my report, some of the numbers of kind of the first hour, first 5 minutes, first hour. So we're seeing people are really anxious to get into our programs. Our paddle court usage is actually trending downward a bit. It's still it's basically we're getting back to pre-pandemic levels, which makes sense. But we are higher than where we were before the pandemic, but we're more in line with that. We're also seeing the interest in our kayak and paddleboard storage declining a little bit over the last couple of years. Again, we still have far more people that are interested in it than far more demand than we have supply. We only have 150 spots, and we had around 350, I think, people that were interested in it. So, although it's dropping, it's still more than we're able to accommodate. Again, our beach permit sales are up about 10% if you look at the numbers of beach stickers that we sold just right at the beginning. So it's not just fee-wise, it's actually that the numbers are increasing as well. Our food concession went back out to bid for Weed Beach. We will be Nikki Glikas Collective, who was there the past few years. She'll be coming back. So that's being awarded to her. Just as a reminder, beach stickers are currently required now. As of April 15th at Weed Beach, at Pear Tree, they will be required as of May 23rd. But last year's stickers are valid through May 31st, so there's still a window. But very busy in the office going through and getting those out to people. Again, we've been working closely to try to help get the camps up and ready for the summer. Janice Marzano has been hired as a camp coordinator, so our staff are working closely with her and myself to try to make sure that all goes smoothly this summer. We did hear from Baywater Properties the last couple of years. We have co-sponsored and done concerts with them at Tilly Pond Park. Unfortunately, just a few weeks ago, they notified us that they've decided to hold off, not do that again this summer, and wait until their project is complete. So we do still have someone out on maternity leave, so when she's back and starts working on it, we're going to see what we can pull together to try to do something for the summer. And then just in terms of all of our properties, the beaches are already starting to be groomed. Our staff are out doing ball fields, athletic fields, mowing, all that. So they're pretty busy, and they did help remove a bunch of debris that the maintainers over at Great Island have put together. So they actually took out about 10 truckloads of just leaves, twigs, all that kind of stuff that they've been collecting. And just lastly, just to remind people that May 18th is Adventure Day at Selleck's and Dunlap Woods. So we'll be looking to see people out there.
When is that? Did you have a time?
May 18th, there is registration. There are 2 different times. One is 11 to 1 and then 1 to 3. So they do need to register people do need to register on our website, so you can do that online.
Great. Couple things from me. So one thing that a couple residents have asked about are just pickleball court repairs over at Cherry Lawn. Is that on your docket?
It is. I have somebody coming out to take a look at it with me this week,
Okay.
so that we'll get an idea of how to best repair them.
And then one of the things I mentioned in the Board of Selectmen meeting last night was the fact that we'd gotten favorable sediment reports for the harbor dredging. So when the bid documents for Pear Tree Point go out, that's got the three components, the lot, the boat ramp, and the boat club harbor dredging. Are you going to include having that contractor bid on the harbor dredging as well, even though it might be postponed in the sense that we could kind of combine those two projects and maybe save money? It's worth talking about.
Yeah, I believe that's one of the things that we had talked about, was including that in there, that maybe we'd get a better price for the town if we do that. So I don't think they're to that point yet on the documents, but we'll make sure that that's included.
Let's make sure of that before that goes out, just so we look at that holistically. That's it for me. Any questions for Jen on Parks and Rec?
Question about the property that's behind the middle school, the field on the bottom of the middle school. Is that a Park and Rec or is that a Board of Education?
Board of Ed.
It's a Board of Ed, okay. How are things going with all the Board of Ed fields being ripped apart because of the HHR and using the town fields? And spring is really difficult on fields because of the impact of wetness. Had some kids complaining like, oh my God, the fields are gross.
Yeah,
how's that rolling into you guys?
You know, it is, it is difficult. You know, we have a lot of demand between, for soccer, baseball, lacrosse, you know, football. Everybody, we're trying to get out there, and we don't have space at the schools, so there's more demand on us. So it's really kudos to the different youth organizations of really working together and trying to coordinate and best meet everybody's needs as best as possible. But it is
a challenging spring.
It is challenging.
Yeah.
Hey, Jen, I have a couple questions. On the beach pass, you raised the price, right? This year?
Yes.
Right, okay. So is the price the same for a one-day pass for a non-resident as it is for the season? That's what it was in the past.
I
Don't know.
I think I'd have to double check what the prices are. I don't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure.
My next question, then you can follow up, is if you break out the one day versus the season at the gate, because now you can process applications at the gate, right, with a credit card?
What do you mean,
I
applications
think
for a sticker?
you can buy, yeah, you can buy
No.
a sticker. Oh, I thought you could.
No, you can only pay the daily fee at the gate.
Okay,
But I do want to say, we do now have two different rates. There's a weekday rate and a weekend rate.
okay.
So they are two different rates. So I believe, and I'll get back to you on the other number. I don't want to.
And you can process that by credit card at the gate?
Yes.
Okay. And then going back to your kayak idea, so I read that you see demand sliding, decreasing, but yet you still have more demand than spaces. So do you re-sign, do you apply every year?
Yes, every
Okay.
year there's a lottery that's done, so we put the word out. They have until a particular date to let us know of their interest. We then do a random, it's completely random lottery, and those people are then notified. Sometimes people say, you know what, I don't want it after all, and then we add on, we keep going down the list. But yes, it's every year. So just because you have one year doesn't mean that you're going to get it the following year.
So is it safe to say, that this year you have 150 more people that want kayak or paddleboard space?
Versus what we can accommodate?
Right.
Approximately.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
A little bit more.
Okay.
Just to conclude, you guys did a great job. I'm sure the beach pass increase this fast has been great because the campaigning was really good. Like, emails were coming out constantly telling residents that go get your beach passes. So well done on that communication.
Thanks.
Other questions? Jen, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Police Department, Chief Marin.
Good morning, all.
Morning, sir.
I hope you found our report informative and helpful. And I do mean our, I know I'm responsible for what's on here, but I can't take the credit for all the good work that our staff does. I just want to kind of give some explanation on some of the trends and highlights here. I'm pleased to report that although we are down 3 sworn personnel, we're swearing in 2 new officers on Friday morning. Anybody's welcome to join. We're excited about that. They will start the police academy May 2nd in Stamford. So we were really pleased with the output that Stamford Police Academy gave in the past. They had just kind of resurrected their program there, and it's better than ever. So we're very happy to get 2 new officers in there, and they will graduate at some point, I think in December or early January. And we already have an officer in the post-police academy in Marin, and she's due to graduate and complete her training in June. So you'll see some new faces soon. That being said, we're still down 1 officer. Our hiring process still is in place, and we're looking forward to interview some qualified candidates. It continues to be a challenge throughout the nation, as I mentioned here, through recruitment and retention. Although we are not seeing any kind of a problem with retention, recruitment has been impacted in the last 5 years, but we're happy to say that we're kind of staying on top of it. And when we only need 1 or 2 officers at a time, we tend to see the bigger cities need 15, 16, and sometimes 20, so they're really struggling. So fortunate to not be in that same situation. A hot topic is our license plate reader cameras. By the end of this week, finally, we will have 13 in place in strategic locations throughout town. They're monitoring license plates coming mostly into town, but in some cases going out of town also. And I will just make mention that our officers and specifically our detectives use that data that's captured by those cameras on a daily basis, and they've been used to assist in, well, as you can imagine, stolen cars and vehicles involved in car burglaries, but domestic violence cases. One was even alerted to a stolen dealer plate that involved a homicide suspect in Canada. Suspicious activity calls, domestic violence incidents, and even South American theft groups that are targeting Asian or residents that are occupied and owned by Asian residents. Not so much in our town, but in nearby towns, and that information is fed into the networks, and we can get alerts on plates and vehicle descriptions that have previously been entered, and we can kind of monitor if they're coming in through town, and we've even identified some of the suspects for other agencies. So it's a great asset. It's a huge leveraging tool. Our detective bureau uses it on a daily basis, and our officers use it a lot as well too. So we're glad to have those, and hopefully at some point expand that program. So another big kind of fact this past quarter is our traffic stops were up almost 80%. I guess this report is a little bit light on when it was submitted to you all, but we had 771 traffic stops by our patrol and traffic division in the first quarter. And what we saw there, and you can't really put your finger on it being the sole cause or sole factor, but our accidents went down over 30%. So I know that there is a correlation there. I'm sure it had an effect, but we're happy to see both those stats trending in the right direction.
Is it just like people speeding and pulling through
Most
lights?
of the reasons for the stops are speeding, yeah.
And are they Darien residents or all over?
I don't
like,
have
sure.
that.
Okay.
Maybe do I have that?
High school kids?
I definitely don't have that, but we are required to collect that data by law. I just don't have a report on that. No, I do, I'm sorry. I don't know if this adds up to the number that I have, but non-residents were 605 and residents were 166.
Oh,
so big difference.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, we are in the middle of our event season. We have the parade coming up. I think announcements were coming up by the organizers this week. Our field services division gets pretty busy this time of year with the Henley Happening and some road races and other spring events. So we're looking forward to get those staffed and ensuring everybody's safety at those events. And believe it or not, first time as an administrator, I can say that stolen cars are down this quarter compared to the same time last year. And same thing with motor vehicle burglaries, and as you know, both of those types of incidents are closely related. And lastly, I just wanted to point out our detective division, and kind of, that group there is underappreciated by the public generally, because they don't really know all the work that they're doing behind the scenes. I mean, to give an example, we had a staff meeting this morning, and one of our detectives is applying for a warrant from a speck of blood that he recovered from one of our stolen cars that got in an accident on I-95, and we processed it for evidence. And through a lot of due diligence and working with the Connecticut State Lab, they've identified a 17-year-old Waterbury teen as being responsible for taking the car here about a year ago. So these guys don't give up on these incidents. It takes a long time, but they do work hard, and they do use things like, obviously, the DNA identification, but the LPR data, but they collaborate with other agencies, and even in some cases we use cell phone tower information, where locations of phones were and what numbers were where. We have a couple active investigations at processing that type of data, so just wanted to give them a kudos. They work really hard, and even though it might be a year or 6 months out from when an incident took place, we are seeing some good case closures, and I think it sends a good message.
Which officer leads the detective bureau, or is it
That'd be Lieutenant Nick Aranzulo.
Nick Aranzulo?
Yeah. That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
A couple of questions from me. So larceny is up quite a bit, it looks like, versus 2024. Any comments on that particular trend?
Yeah, and I know I've mentioned it in public forum before, but a lot is what's kind of hamstringing us and what we can do with people that are committing property crimes. So we see a lot of retail theft and some of the chains, Lululemon, Walgreens, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, and a lot of those store policies across the nation are to let the bad guys get out with the product rather than involve any of their employees or their patrons, to avoid anybody getting hurt and imagine lawsuits. So a lot of times they won't call us till 2 days, 3 days after, before the incident even, or after the incident took place. And I believe our suspects and our people that are involved in that, even those South American theft groups, they know that. They know that in Connecticut, police can't chase after people committing property crimes, and they know what these store policies are. So we'll see $6,000 in one sitting get taken merchandise from Lululemon, and we'll see. It won't be surprising. But what I will say, that came up this morning at the meeting as well, our incident at the Lululemon early this year, I don't remember what month it was, 6 individuals kind of just stormed into Lululemon and took a whole bunch, and we all know how much the clothes are worth there. Yeah, well, no, it was open. It was open for business, and I don't think any of the employees really were allowed or permitted to interfere with what was going on. They called us. We got a description.
Did they call you that day? Or
they did call us that day, surprisingly. I think it was kind of startling to the staff and the customers that were present. But later on that week, that same group was identified up in Massachusetts, and we're in the process of filing for some arrest warrants now for them. I know it's a needle in a haystack and kind of a drip in a pond, but again, we don't take anything lightly, and we're continuing to see through these cases. But I do believe the larceny figure is contributing, or the policies and the current laws and legislation are contributing to what we can and can't do, and I think our suspects know that, and it's driven that number up a little bit.
Okay. It's unfortunate that you had to mention that residents continue to fall victim to computer scams. That's really unfortunate. I bet they're older residents in many cases.
Typically they are. We've had a couple just this past quarter where we see $25,000, $30,000 in losses to single residents that are falling for computer scams and the gift card scams, and we try our best in pushing stuff out on social media to bring awareness, but it doesn't necessarily reach that demographic. But we do try and put as much information as we can out there, and it surprises me still when people still fall through. But they do become more intricate. They do become more believable. We've heard many variations. It's tough for me to even recall all the different intricacies of each of these incidents, whether it's meeting somebody face to face and paying them in cash, or keeping somebody on the phone and going to CVS and buying gift cards, or saying that your computer is going to be locked until you pay us $10,000 to repair it. And, I don't know if there's a level of embarrassment with some of the older victims. They don't want to admit that they don't know a better way around it, or are aware that it could have been a scam, but we'll continue to try our best to bring awareness to the community.
And I was super glad that Sharon Lee has started as the new facility coordinator. Any initial learnings worth talking about from her?
Sure, she's been doing very well. I think she was a little overwhelmed with our facility. But she's got a first month kind of under her belt now, and she's developed quite the program and system to keep her fingertips on some of our problem spots. And she's even identified some other things that we weren't aware that we needed to be paying attention to. And I think there's a program in place and a schedule and a timeline in place to keep an eye on that. I'm no expert. I know Captain Mastriani has been relieved of some of this because, as we all know, it's been very reactive for us, and now we're hoping to kind of push it and trend it towards the proactive part of keeping up on the maintenance of our building.
Great, I'm glad that's working out. Last question, did you fill your college internship? You put out a notice that...
Found out this morning we have 6 applicants so far.
Fantastic.
I think 4 of them are town residents and 2 out of town, so I don't know what the window is to get the application in there. I'd have to check with Captain Hedema, but we're happy to have at least 6 applicants. We hope that they're qualified, and we can't wait to kick off this program.
Awesome, that's terrific. Other questions for the chief?
Chief, the patch had something about safe cities, the top 100 safe cities or top 50, and I saw that we weren't in there. Is it because we don't participate in that survey, or because we have too many larcenies?
Well, Darien's just not a safe place. No, I'm glad you asked this because I've said this.
Okay, you got me.
So a lot of those studies and surveys, the data and statistics that they use come from the reports that were required, or crimes that were, the index crimes that were required to report to the FBI. Now, what are index crimes? Crimes against persons, motor vehicle theft, motor vehicle burglary, and assault, to name a few. So what keeps us out of a lot of those studies and those top 10s or top 25s are the motor vehicle thefts and the motor vehicle burglaries.
Yeah, I looked this morning.
And then the larcenies too, so.
I saw New Haven right at the bottom at number 50, but it made it, and I didn't see Darien in the top 50.
Yeah,
and I
and
thought,
unfortunately, some of those statistic points, they'll drive you right out of those.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, thanks.
And you know what? I really like the year over year. It's really helpful.
I'll have to give credit to Lieutenant Mulcahy on that. He came up
Really,
with that,
big
and I think it's
thank you.
valuable.
Yeah.
One last thing, and importantly, we are kicking off our e-bike safety and e-scooter awareness. Traffic Officer Tim Budd came up with this very informative brochure, and we have scheduled a morning event up at the middle school on Friday morning where we'll have staff up there handing out some of these informational brochures to parents. And we're fortunate enough that our police association actually partnered with us as well, and partnered and collaborated with Heights Pizza. And we're going to have coupons to hand out to kids for a free slice of pizza who are in compliance with wearing their helmets and following the rules of the road, and generally checking off some of the boxes on this brochure here. So we're excited to get that rolling, and we can't take credit for it all. We work with the first selectman, we work with the superintendent, and some other stakeholders in town as well.
I'm disappointed that I'm specifically excluded from qualifying for a slice of pizza. Okay.
I did say that the police officers can't use the coupons for themselves.
What time is the Friday morning thing?
7:30.
7:30.
Hey, Chief, on that initiative, have you thought about reaching out? We have a lot of homeowners associations, maybe sharing that information with the presidents of those so that they can disseminate it in those areas?
I'm not sure that we haven't yet, but that's a great idea. I do know that we have hundreds of these disseminated throughout town in little holders in a lot of the delis and in the restaurants and some of the storefronts. It's on our website. It's been in our social media
great.
push,
Great
so
idea.
we'll continue to kind of get it out there. Because it is some of those, I think what the initial part of the campaign was targeting was for parents before Christmas came. Before you buy your children this equipment, it's important to know what you're getting yourself into. We've all seen those bikes go zipping through, and it's amazing that we haven't had more incidents and injuries involving them, so. Yeah, I think everybody involved.
Yeah. Question relative to just, kid safety in town. Are you getting, I know with the Heights opening up and the weather getting nice, middle schoolers love to walk down to that area.
Mhm.
Are you getting complaints from any of the retail spaces that they're swarming, or they're riding their bikes, or using their motor pads, or
So we'll get complaints.
disrupting the, yeah.
We get complaints from the establishments that the kids don't visit, basically. So when they're
Right.
going to the Walgreens or the
Right.
ice cream shops or the cookie places, those places love the swarms of kids in
Yep.
front. But it has become problematic. I know the property managers up there have reported some incidents of trespassing and running through the hallways,
Yeah.
even in some of the residential. So we're trying to keep on top of that.
That might be a good conversation to have at the
Yeah.
municipal meeting.
Maybe we could pencil it in on this brochure that we're handing out on Friday.
All right, thank you, Chief, appreciate it. Okay, a couple more, Public Works, Mr. Gentile.
Good morning.
Come on.
Just the touch on the top five. The Gorham's Pond, of course, that kicked off a couple months ago. We're actually starting to address the dam right now. We're about a week or two behind because of some of the watering conditions. Trying to dewater that area is probably the most important piece, but we feel as soon as we get that done this week or next, they're actually going to start taking off with the demolition. Hanson Road Bridge, a little more encouraging. We are looking at a May 16th opening. That's still a hard date, but with some of the progress I saw the last couple of weeks, we may be opening that up a little bit sooner.
Great.
Rings End Road Bridge, we did finish the work on that bridge, getting our poor rating, fair rating up to a satisfactory now on the bridge. We have a couple more that are going to be doing Old Kings Highway South and Camp Avenue, or two more than out on our targets, but they seem to be getting some good reports from back at DOT and others that they'd like us to ramp up our efforts on some of these. So we are going to look forward to doing that. The sewer I-9 program, we are going to kick off the Phase 3 construction piece. We are under design right now. We're nearly complete to put it out to bid. That should go out end of May, beginning of June. Hopefully get started midsummer. And finally, the last piece in there was the repair down on near water. We did respond, we did repair. It's only a temporary repair, so right now we're looking at permanent solutions down there, whether it's running a new line or repairing the one out there or lining the one that's out there. So all things that we're getting more feedback from places throughout the country instead of just New England, to see if there's a way to do this without having to dig up Weed Beach parking lot. Two more items, just a trend, and we're still seeing our MSW numbers go up. If you look at the graph that's in the report, still the single stream is also going up at the same time. So we're getting more garbage because there's really no place to put it other places. So you'll see that our revenue numbers at the end of the year are going to be elevated above the original projections for this year.
And this is not being generated by residents so much as it is construction, third parties, all of
I
that, or is it
think
across the
we're
board?
getting some garbage from out of town, yeah, coming through our process through our transfer station, which we have plenty of capacity to do. It's just, it's revenue now at $118 a ton, and we're paying $103 going out the door. So we're seeing a $15 per ton revenue generation from this garbage that's coming in. And last piece is we are starting to put together our paving list. This year I've gotten quite a few emails for recommendations on roads to be paved. Of course, I take a look at the ones that the people want us to. I do have a list. I don't generally make it public. The only reason I don't do that is we don't set our price until June. If I've put out a list and people assume that their road's going to be paved and all of a sudden it is not, that that fallout is something that's not generally something I wanted to have to deal with. So I do hold that list close to and dear to my heart. So we will continue to move forward, but that list is almost completed. We'll be out there prepping the roads, new catch basins, tree trimming, cutbacks on the roads to get them back to where they're supposed to be width-wise. So that you'll see that work start soon. And any questions you folks may have?
A couple for me. So on the sewer I&I project, are there any major infrastructure repairs coming out of that project that would follow that you'd want to bring to this board and have a conversation about? How are you seeing that project unfold?
We've been able to handle, you call them major repairs. I think that first phase was a major repair on Old Kings Highway South. That pipe was in a condition that could have failed at any time. We were able to catch it just at the right time. The other spot sources that we're finding, we were able to repair. They run in a range from maybe $12,000 to $25,000. I'm able to handle that with my collection system capital account. Those are the things that I'm addressing. So as we find these with video cameraing throughout the year, we find these spot sources, we go out and take care of those on our own. What we do not do, though, is the lining ourselves or the manhole lining and repairs. That we put out the contract, and that's what you're going to see as part of phase 3.
On the sanitary sewer breakdown on Wheat Beach, December 1st, so they put in a repair for that, but it looks like there's additional work. Is that because that repair was temporary, or because it's a broader analysis to see what caused all that you're worried about? What's your concern down there?
The pipe is older. We found one leak. I have to assume that pipe is in other areas maybe deficient structurally. I have to prepare for that. I'd like to prepare and be ahead of that. I don't want to have to repair another leak down there. So we are going to bring somebody in to possibly do and run some type of sonar system through the force main. That's one of the options we're looking at to get a better feel for the pipe integrity before we go ahead and start doing any digging. But with that said, running a new pipe is not out of the question either. We may just put it right on top of the old one and put a different type of material, so it's not open to breaks, deterioration.
But that's what this effort will help you discover.
That's correct.
Okay. Now that the soil tests are done down at Seagate for the Salt Box Lane project, what's next up in that? Could you talk a little bit about that project and what your next steps are?
So the design is about 75% complete. We're looking at now with those soil borings that we took, finish the head wall design. Once that design is good, and they're working on that now, we do want to submit to DEEP and Army Corps. We want to set up a preliminary meeting with them to go over our plans before we do a formal submission. That's next on the agenda, along with, at the same time, submitting to EPC and getting on their agenda for some of the regulated activities this project will entail for them to look at.
Okay.
That's over the next 3 months.
On the food scrap recycling program, are you coordinating with the advisory committee on sustainability? I know they have that on their list of projects and things they'd like to focus on this year.
I haven't spoken with them in about 4 or 5 months.
Okay, I may have they've got new leadership now. I may have them give you a call just to check in, see if they can do something that would be of help to you.
It sounded like the last time we spoke, they were trying to expand it into other areas that we weren't touching just yet, which I think one of them was maybe the Board of Ed areas.
Yep.
But that's the last I've heard.
Okay. Only other question is just on FEMA funding for Gorham's Pond Dam repair. So this is, we spend the money first and then apply for reimbursement, like all these grants.
Yeah.
What's the timing on application for that grant funding?
Well, originally we had to be finished by October of this year, which is why it's so critical to get back on schedule.
Okay.
We did have some feedback from FEMA previously, and I'd say within the last couple months that that October date wasn't a hard date. We could actually extend and get more time. That wasn't our feeling when we heard from them almost a year ago. So we're going to go under the date that we need to be done by October, and we're going to push our contractor to do that. And at that time, we're going to submit paperwork to see if we can get reimbursement for the project that's out there. We did get a message. Margaret was nice enough to forward it to myself and to Darren, that the project funds have been, I'll use the proper word, I think, obligated, and we'd be getting a letter of that soon. And that was about a week ago? Yeah. So that was good news, because we weren't supposed to get anything from the original conversation.
Only other question for me on just this single stream recycling versus municipal solid waste. Is there anything that residents are recycling that they should not be recycling that complicates that? Or if you were to give any guidance to residents about, just to remind them what are the things that they should be putting in their recycle bin versus not, would that be helpful at all? Or
You know, for the most part, we get good reports back from, with regards to contamination from wind waste. We do quite well in the area of, we keep our recycling clean and we're recycling what we're supposed to. So all the hard work that was done by the sustainability folks with the pamphlets, with the updates, with the what's in, what's out, that has all been beneficial to guiding us in that direction. I think our reports on our rebates are saying, you know, loudly to us that we're doing well also, because we're getting quite a large rebate right now with regards to our paper products and things like that.
okay, great, that's helpful. Questions for Ed?
With regards to this huge increase in the MSW, is there any risk of us being at capacity and then not being able to take any more?
Our facility can handle up to 5,000 tons a day. City Carding can only handle 1,000 with their floor that they have. So there's very little chance that we're going to exceed our limit any one day. And if we do, we just close it.
Okay.
We
I just want to
send
make
them
sure
someplace
that residents always take priority, right? Wouldn't want a
Yes.
resident coming in and not being able to access it because we had all these outside providers coming in.
No, if we start to reach that level, then I will
Okay, thank you.
dial it back.
Good question.
Sticking with the recycling, I'm trying to figure out, I think we charge $70 for a ton for recyclable and 90 something for, I'm trying to figure out why the volume is going up and yet the overall, but the volume for recyclable is going down, when in theory, well, in practice, it's less expensive. So why wouldn't you continue to separate, and why is that volume going down?
Well, what the piece that we don't know is what are the haulers charging them now that they're being charged to dump at $75 a ton.
Okay.
So before it was free. So in their, I don't know, their working model, if you will, maybe they didn't charge them very much, maybe they didn't charge them at all. That was, you know, that was maybe was part of the MSW pickup. That's the piece that we don't know, because I know they're charging them now. And it may be the fact that some people have canceled their single stream recycling, and it may now end up all in the MSW bin.
Okay. On Saltbox, are you working on easements now at this time in the process, or do you wait on that?
We've identified them right now. We're trying to get a better feel for the Army Corps and the DEP's feedback. We've already met with EPC, so making sure that we're not going through a piece of property or looking for an easement that we possibly don't need at this time.
Right.
We're about 90% sure the direction we're going, but I'd like a little bit more confidence going into a meeting with a resident that let them know that I'm going to need an easement on their property now. So we've dealt with 2 of them down on Seagate right now, and we're moving the appraisal process along there. We haven't captured an easement down there yet, but those are 2 that we should have had. There was a pipe there before. We should have had something there before, so we're still working on those 2. There's a couple others throughout the neighborhoods that we're going to need.
And then the last is on the I&I. That was such a big initiative. The phase 3, how long will that take?
It'll probably take another year,
Another year?
10 to 12 months, depending on the weather.
I think that would be a great agenda update for Board of Selectmen, just
Okay.
overall, that whole project.
And state of our sewers generally, I think
Yeah,
that's a good idea.
yeah, so when you're done with that, Ed, will you feel that you've looked at every area in town and for the foreseeable, we are in good shape?
We have looked at maybe 2/3 of the system. That was the phase 1. We took Stony Brook, if you will, and it's about 2/3 of our system, and we've looked at that, prioritized the areas we need to make improvements, and those improvements turned out to be 3 separate construction phases. And we're
Okay.
almost done with the 3rd one.
Okay.
And once we're done with that, be able to monitor some of our meters and come back with some information on what reductions we're seeing now that we've eliminated a lot of the inflow and infiltration into our system. That's the time probably for an update, and that would probably be about a year from now.
Okay, okay. Oh, wait, so Hanson, when that's all done, Darren's bringing the fish back?
I
Just wanna
haven't
make
talked to
sure.
them about the fish just
Okay.
yet. I'd be surprised if they're not back already.
Perfect answer.
Okay, Ed, thank you.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Ms. McNamara, Town Clerk.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. In addition to my report, I wanted to give an update from the RTM. They met last night. They had a busy meeting with 8 agendas before them. Everything did pass. So the CTDOT land, the Norotan Heights Fire Department retaining wall, the dispatcher's contract, they all passed unanimously. The $100 Appendix D fine had 15 dissenting votes, so I just wanted to share that. There was just a lot of discussion that I heard centered more around a consistency of a messaging and a dollar amount across the town between park and town-owned land. And no one objected conceptually to the idea, but that was the message, so just passing that along, and clearly you can watch the videotape on TV 79. And then in addition to my report, I just thought I'd take a moment to sort of contextualize the town clerk's office. I've obviously been up here a couple of times in reporting, but I thought it was important just to convey how the town clerk's office works with a myriad of disparate topics. I mean, we've got land records, we have absentee ballots, we have dogs, we talk to the town attorney, we talk to the Secretary of State's office, we talk to the State Department of Environment and Energy Protection. But so much of what I do and my office does is dictated by state statute and town code. The variable I have is how can my office deliver this service and this product more efficiently, faster, cheaper, and with a better experience for the constituent. So that's how I approach the job, because otherwise it is formulaic, busy and disparate, but formulaic. So to that end, I mean, some of the topics that I put in my report, for example, Friday afternoon, local broker or homeowner has an open house on Saturday. We're closed on Fridays. We're closed over the weekend. So that's why my focus has been to try to get these land records online, so they can be at home, log in, and get any information they need on their property to be able to share that with that open house that next morning at 8 o'clock. And in order to do so, I've applied to the state every year for a grant that ranges from $7,000 to $8,000 a year. Those funds go into bringing our land records online. We're back now to 2004, and I've also brought all our maps online, back to 1820. So really, again, how can I improve the constituent, the public's experience in dealing with my office? Moving forward, then the communication aspect. How can we make communication better from my office out to the public? The example was utilizing the website. We've got an amazing resource with our website. How can I use that tool better to reach our constituents? I had the example of the marriage license. It used to be a paper form. Public had to print out, or these lovely couples had to print, fill out, scan, or mail back. Now it's a fillable form. They go online, they upload their documents, comes right into us as an email, it's archived in the website, is a more efficient, easier experience for the resident. I've used it also for the RTM. New members can simply fill it out as a survey. It goes emailed out, they fill it out, gets emailed back right to the RTM members who would be responsible for that data, clean, efficient, and archived. I want to use that same functionality, hopefully, to move to the dogs. I realize that is a system. We have 2,600 dogs here in town that are licensed. I'm sure a lot more that are not licensed. FYI, for the public, June 1st, please, every dog in Darien needs to be licensed over the age of 6 months. I'd like to move forward in getting that system a little bit more automated. Again, hopefully using the website. The missing component, however, is the payment module. So I am very eager to move forward with the initiative that you all have taken to bring a more holistic approach to how the public interacts with this building regarding payment processes. So we are very excited because right now we're just cash or credit card. I'm sorry, cash or check. Back on communication, utilize a town email address. So every communication, townclerk@darien.ct.gov. This way, the public can just have one email address that goes to everyone in my office. We have multiple eyes seeing that request. This way, if someone's out, we don't have to worry about a forwarded email, in my absence, please contact blank. We're just, how can I help the public in dealing with my office? Moving forward, then, our constituents with disabilities. Had the pleasure of working with the consultants who are part of this WestCog study and dealing with disabilities in the ADA, both from the physical plant and how the public interacts with our respective offices. And from that, created a spreadsheet that's shared in the office. Right now, it's just with the town clerk's office. But when we interact with the people in the public with disabilities, what type of accommodations are we providing? Is it a free accommodation? Did we have to have an expense? Right now, it's data collection. We don't have a lot of constituents, but at least we're capturing the information that when and if that needs to be looked at on a more holistic basis, we've retained it. And that was based upon that meeting with the consultants who came in with the WestCog, and they were very helpful in looking at my spreadsheet. They had some suggestions, and I put that on our shared drive. Again, communication, education. I'm participating in that presentation tomorrow morning to the Board of Realtors at 10 o'clock. They have, Tony mentioned, about 80 people coming, and I think it'll help them understand how can the town clerk's office, the assessor's office, and the tax collector help them do their jobs better, and what are the tools and resources we have for them. So I'm excited for that presentation. And also we'll be going to the high school, helping those seniors, 18-year-olds register to vote, and teaching them how can they utilize the absentee ballot process when they head off in the fall to wherever they may be going outside of Darien. Again, efficiency. How can I help my office run more efficiently? Creating a town clerk manual. It's on our shared drive. Every task of the myriad of tasks that my office performs, we're writing up little cheat sheets saved on our drive. So if someone walked in the door one day and had to do that job, they can look at that cheat sheet and know, okay, step by step, how can I follow? We've been blessed with a lot of continuity in the department, but I never know that one morning someone wins the lottery and calls up and says, I'm out of here. And so I want to make sure that when we hand over this office to the next set of people, that they have a document that they can refer to. So sort of holistically, what I'm trying to focus on, again, most of it is driven by state statute, but what are the intangibles? What are the subjective things I can do to make it a more pleasant experience for our constituents in a cost-effective manner? Happy to answer questions.
Super helpful, thank you. My only comment is we are working with the CLA on next steps for that payment effort. And,
yes, super excited.
They're on my list. We just haven't gotten to getting back to them yet, but not to worry, that's pretty important.
Yeah.
Questions for Christa?
Hey, Christa, just one. The maps, is that uploaded now, and is that under it's under town clerk?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay,
yep.
great.
All maps are there.
Love that idea.
Good. Marcy?
No, thanks.
Outstanding, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Oh,
Right.
quick update on the ADAs, or ADUs.
Mm-hmm.
We do see, so they have to file in the town clerk's office when they have, in the process, they file an affidavit. And we're finding, I think it's working fabulously. Some of whom have had the structure there, but maybe they're just putting the kitchen.
Gotcha.
So some are going from scratch, but others are just putting in those little pieces primarily for resale value. They want to have the stamp of approval, but maybe putting a kitchen in, so.
Got it.
That's a nuance to that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Christa. I appreciate everyone's contributions, especially those who presented today, so thank you very much. Great meeting. Could I get a motion to adjourn? Monica, please.
Ally?
Yeah?
Hey, Ally,
It's not her turn this month.
Yeah.
Hey, Ally, the heating assistance.
Yeah.
What are you doing on that? Are you still taking applications?
Till the end of May, we take heated homes, or homes that are heated with utilities, so gas and electric.
And so what are you telling these people that this department's been disbanded?
I haven't.
Okay.
It hasn't
We're
come
hoping,
up.
okay.
It hasn't, I don't know how it's gonna roll out in the state, of
Okay.
course, so we haven't really discussed it with our clients yet. I'm hoping maybe, I don't know what to expect.
Yeah, okay. That's it.
Okay, good. Motion to adjourn. Monica, Marcy, second. All in favor. Thank you, friends.